Happy Friday, Marketeers. I'm going to get us started with a video. If you are having a hard time hearing the video, just make sure that you click on the YouTube link that's in my Facebook post, and then you can watch it there too. But if you're opening this on the Google Doc, it should work just fine. So go ahead and watch the fun video. It's about the moon, and then we're going to read a book about the moon.
Preparing to land our spacecraft on the moon. Houston, we have it's my time to shine. It's my time to shine. Day is over now, so it's my time to shine. Good evening, it's the moon, here to regale you with the tune. I'm so bright up in the sky at night, but the truth is I'm just reflecting light. See, let me help you break it down. And I is spinning around, and I orbit the Earth in a loop.
You see, the moon is kind of like my hula hoop.
We both orbit the sun, he's the big shot.
I'm the center of the solar system, I'm so
The
hot.
sun's like a light bulb, and I'm like a mirror, like bounces off me, and then it appears to the Earth below for a lovely view. Animals like wolves who go, sometimes I'm full, sometimes half on, sometimes I'm crescent, or it looks like I'm gone, but I'm here in the dark, just a lonely moon, hoping that somebody will visit me soon. I'm covered in dust and I'm made of rock, so come see me soon and go on a moonwalk.
It's my time to shine. It's my time to shine.
All that night, in the night, we can see the moonshine.
It's my time to shine. It's my time to shine.
I'm planting this flag on the mountain I climbed. One small step for a storybot, one giant leap for storybot kind.
Nice. All right, stopping that. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start our book. It is called, you guessed it, The Moon Book. It is written by Gail Gibbons. And this book is all about the moon. All right, let's get started. Look at this label here. As the sun sets at the end of each day, the sky becomes darker and darker. On many clear nights, our moon shines brightly in the night sky. A star burns gases that give off heat and light. The sun is a star. A planet reflects sunlight and revolves around the sun. Earth is a planet. Our moon is the brightest and biggest light in our night sky. It outshines all the stars and planets, which appear as small points of light. Some planets have many moons. Earth has one. Our moon looks big and bright because it is so close to Earth compared to the faraway stars and planets. It is about 238,900 miles away. The moon is about 2,000 miles in diameter and about 6,800 miles around. Earth is about 8,000 miles in diameter and about 25,000 miles around. The moon makes no light of its own to shine. It is bright in the night sky because it reflects the sun's light. It is about 1/4 the size of Earth. It's made up of rock and dust. There's no air or sign of life. Astronomers study the planets, their moons, and stars. An orbit is the path of one object around another. Can't do that with my hands. Most astronomers and other scientists think our moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Some believe something collided with Earth that tossed out a cloud of rock and debris. While orbiting around Earth, the rock and debris came together to form the moon. In ancient times, people thought the moon was a powerful god or goddess. The Romans called their moon goddess Diana. In Greece, the moon goddess was Selene, who rode through the sky in a silver chariot. Some American Indian tribes believed the moon and sun were brother and sister gods. Stories and legends were told about the shapes and shadows that show on the moon's surface. Some people said that the moon showed a man's face, the man in the moon, who was imprisoned there for stealing. Others told of moon demons living out there. Ooh. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite. It takes about 1 month for the moon to travel around Earth. A satellite is an object orbiting around a larger one. I see lots of labels here showing you what's going on in this picture. The moon makes one complete rotation for each complete trip around Earth. Thus, the same side of the moon is always facing Earth. The moon appears to change shape, but it doesn't. The different shapes we see are called phases of the moon. We are seeing different amounts of light being reflected on the moon. How much light we see depends on the positions of Earth, moon, and sun. Phases of the moon. This is going to be important. All right, during a new moon, the moon is almost directly between the sun and Earth. The moon looks dark. We see no reflected light. Crescent moon. The moon is waxing when the lit surface we see is getting bigger. In a few nights, a bit of the sunlit side of the moon shows. It forms a crescent. First quarter moon. When the moon is a quarter of its way around the Earth, it is in its first quarter phase. We see it as half lit. It is sometimes called a half moon. Gibbous moon. When a moon is waxing between a first quarter moon and a full moon, it is called a gibbous moon. Full moon. About 2 weeks have passed since the new moon. Now the entire face of the moon we see shines. A full moon, big circly moon. Gibbous moon. The moon is waning when the lit surface we see is getting smaller. Ooh. When the moon is waning between a full moon and a last quarter moon, it is a gibbous moon once again. Last quarter moon. When the moon is 3/4 of its way around Earth, it is in its last quarter phase. Again, we see it as half lit. It's sometimes called a half moon. Crescent moon. Once again, we see a small sliver of the moon shining in the sky. New moon. It takes the moon about 1 month to go through its entire set of phases. People used to know the time of the month by watching the moon phases. Whew, that's a lot. Whew, a lot of different phases there. Solar eclipse. The moon's orbit around Earth is usually tilted slightly compared to the Earth's orbit around the sun. Because of this, the moon cannot exactly line up between the sun and the Earth. But when the moon's orbit is not tilted and the moon lines up exactly between the sun and Earth, a solar eclipse happens. So I'm going to probably add a video to this post about solar eclipses because I am not the best to explain this. So I will add a little video to try to explain this. It's pretty cool. I'm going to skip this part because I don't want to keep you too long. The moon's shadow falls on Earth. A solar eclipse can last up to 7 1/2 minutes. Lunar eclipse. When the sun, Earth, and moon are exactly lined up and a lunar eclipse happens. As in a solar eclipse, the moon's orbit is not tilted. The Earth blocks off the sunlight that usually lights up the moon. The moon has a reddish glow. Lunar comes from luna, the Latin word for moon. A lunar eclipse can last up to 3 1/2 hours. The moon affects the oceans too. The moon's pull, called gravity on the oceans, is strong enough to cause tides. Tides are the daily rising and falling of the ocean's waters. Sorry. High tide happens about every 13 hours. If you see in the picture where the water is, there's like almost to the very top step of the ladder here, all the way down to like the third or fourth step. So then the low tide happens about every 13 hours. This is because the moon takes about 25 hours to come back to the same place in the sky it was the night before. Tide differences vary around the world. Some night sky gazers and astronomers can get a close-up view of the moon by looking through binoculars. Show me your binoculars. Ooh, what do you see? I see a kitty cat. Okay, I'm back to reading. Some nights, others look through telescopes. Telescopes is that 1. Binoculars 2, 1, 2, 1. Some huge telescopes are being used at observatories. Here's some binoculars, telescope, observatory. A close-up view of the moon's surface shows dark patches astronomers call plains or seas. Other areas are covered with craters, mountains, and valleys. The moon's craters were formed between 3.5 and 4 billion years ago when meteors pounded its surface. For centuries, people have wanted to know more about our moon. In 1959, the Soviet spacecraft Luna 3 transmitted to Earth the first pictures of the far side, or back, of the moon. There aren't as many dark areas on that side as on the side we see from Earth. In 1961, President JFK made a commitment to put Americans on the moon before the end of the decade. At first, many American unmanned spacecraft were sent. Pictures were taken, then Surveyor 1 landed on the moon in 1966. It sent back information about the moon's surface. The first manned orbit of the moon was made by Apollo 8 astronauts in 1968. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, who's important, but he's going to come back up, and Edwin Buzz Aldrin of the Apollo 11 mission became the first men to walk on the moon. Can you guys do that? Walk on the moon. There were 5 more Apollo landings on the moon. The last one, Apollo 17, was in 1972. The astronauts did experiments and gathered samples. Astronomers and other scientists were able to learn more about the history and nature of our moon. On a clear night, when the moon is up in the sky, gaze up at it. We're still learning more about our closest neighbor, the moon. I am not going to read all of these, but I can post them for you so you can look at these interesting facts. But the moon is very cool, and we will learn more about it as we finish this unit up. And I will post a video about the eclipse. Mrs. Myers and myself are going to make a video about this book together, which will be super fun. Try to do that over the weekend. And there's that. I hope you guys have a great Friday. Have a good weekend. Hopefully you can get outside and enjoy the beautiful weather. See you guys later.